Hey guys, this is Glass Vault. My name is John. Thank you again for joining me. I just wanted to touch on something that I had said in the previous video about trust being dynamic and how we need to focus more on trust. I wanted to clear up, I have done a few LinkedIn posts basically on trust and how like presence-based trust and access needs to be a thing. What I'm not saying is, I wanted to clarify, I'm not saying cybersecurity practitioners are not talking about trust. I'm not saying trust hasn't been a key word in security. What I'm saying is, like, we need to start measuring it. And we need to see it as dynamic, see it as ephemeral, see it as something that decays, something that erodes, and that's more closer to the human philosophy of trust. And honestly, right now, just the way that I've been feeling is, as AI develops and continues to develop, it will become more indistinguishable from humans, and that line is going to blur between artificial and human. These philosophies of trust need to be integrated with the technology. We need to be seeing technology in that way, in general. Injecting philosophies into this beyond just functionality, beyond productivity, beyond capital. So anyhow, going with that, I really wanted to focus on a authentication protocol today. It's called Kerberos. If you're a security professional, you've likely heard of it, hopefully, because it runs under Active Directory, and it's the default authentication protocol for Active Directory. It was developed in the 80s, actually, by MIT. They wanted computers on a network to talk to each other without disclosing, a password every time, each interaction. And so essentially, Kerberos is built on, it's named after a Greek mythology. The three-headed dog that would guard the gates of the underworld. So that's kind of that imagery you can put in your head. It guards the firewall, So there's aspects of Kerberos that, absolutely are outdated. Like, most of the time, I feel like when you hear about Kerberos today, it's a new vulnerability, and, Kerberosting, the red teamers, everyone, we're familiar with these things, but we don't talk about, like, what Kerberos kind of got right and how we can potentially modernize that. So I wanted to just kind of quickly whiteboard something for you. I put up these LinkedIn posts, and, pun fully intended, wanted to make sure that y'all can trust that there is theory behind that, and hopefully this conversation can just continue. So how Kerberos works is essentially it's about tickets. It's time-based tickets, right? So what we've got is, you've got your client, right? And I'm not great at whiteboarding, so I'm going to do my best here. You got the client. The client ultimately wants access to a service. Okay. So the heart of Kerberos is the KDC, the key distribution center. Inside of that KDC, you've got an authentication server, the AS we'll call, and then you've got a ticket granting server. Or the TGS, okay? The client is going to first send a message, an AS request message, to the authentication server. Okay. I'm really sorry. I know this is, like, not great to read, but just listen to what I'm saying, I guess. So the AS request, this is essentially, hi, I'm here. You walk into the lobby of the hotel. I'm just going to speak in hotel analogies. That's been my vibe lately. You walk in, the client's saying to the authentication server, you know, this is me. This is my identity. It's not giving a password. What it's giving is a encrypted key, an encrypted timestamp that has a key with that only like the initiator of this request can know. So essentially, the authentication server is not seeing the client's password. It's just seeing this key that it has. If it's able to decrypt that key, then it will move forward with the process. If it's not, then access is denied, essentially. So let's say it's able to encrypt the key. What it's going to do is it's going to give back, it's going to respond to the client. AS rep, it's going to respond with a ticket called the TGT. It's called the ticket granting ticket. So, cool. TGT. All right. Boy, I can't even see this. It's okay. This is the most important part, the whole structure of it. So, it responds back with the TGT. The TGT is essentially like a time. It's the clock's ticking. It's gonna expire, and it's like a ticket to the lobby, say, of this hotel, but you don't have a room quite yet. You don't have access to the service that you're trying to get. So the TGT is given back to the client, and what that TGT says is it basically contains the secret key of the ticket granting server. So the client's not able to see the secret key that belongs to the ticket granting server, but it's going to go, all it has is this ticket, right? So you can kind of see the ticket granting server as like a concierge, right? The concierge has the ability to get the guest into their room, right? So the client comes back to the TGS with that ticket granting ticket, which is TGS request. Cool. And it says, "Hi, I'm here. I have this ticket granting ticket that I got from the authentication server." The TGS then, takes that ticket granting ticket, and then it responds. TGS response. It'll respond with a service ticket for the actual use of the service. Okay. So the service ticket Okay. So then the service ticket is now in the hands of the client, and the client can go to whatever server or whatever service they want, like it's a file share, an email. Say the service is down here. We'll just say file share for this example. Cool. The client could then take the service ticket that they received from the TGS using their TGT that they first got from that authentication server. And that's the real stuff. That's the service ticket, right? You take that to the service, the file share. They're able to access the file share using that service ticket. Okay. So this can be repeated over numerous services, right? And that's essentially, in a nutshell, how Kerberos is designed. The issue there is these tickets, that ticket granting ticket that the client receives from the authentication server, by default, it lasts 10 hours, okay? And let's be real, we're not exactly going to be changing the defaults in our enterprises. That it expires. 10 hours. That's a long time, in 2025. Like, when we know that attackers can move laterally within minutes, we really need to understand that trust should be measured. It should be seen as eroding, because anything can happen in 10 hours. The service ticket that the client receives from the TGS to send to the service, to the file share, to the email, that service ticket by default is set to an expiration time of 8 to 10 hours. So here, it's like, that's the default, right? Are you going in and changing, are your sysadmins or are your InfoSec professionals going in and changing these defaults? Like, if so, great, cool. But my point is, as solid as Kerberos is, in this idea of trust and this idea of trust should expire, right? It's still what it's got right in the pre-authentication side. It's missing on the post-auth side. The post-authentication side of, once somebody has that trust, what happens? You've got someone that checks into a hotel. Yeah, they're there for 2 nights, but like, what if on the morning of the second day, they are causing issues in the room, in the lobby, like harassing people, so really seeing how things can morph and change, and trust being dynamic and trust eroding. And it really brings us to the idea that we need to focus more on presence. Access should be presence-based, because we can't trust in trust being static any longer, especially now. As AI continues to develop and attackers are utilizing and wielding that, we need to start, and girls, we need to start measuring trust. So that's ultimately the heart of what I'm saying. I'm working on this kind of model right now that will score trust, essentially. I'm very interested in talking about this, so if anyone else would like to jump in the topic, let me know. But Kerberos, this is underneath banks, hospitals, enterprises that use Active Directory. And so that's why we're hearing only about attacks and only about CVEs and vulnerabilities when we talk about Kerberos. But we're missing that philosophy of trust that's actually key, pun intended. But yeah, seriously, like we need to be revisiting that conversation around trust. It's not just zero trust. Like, great, zero trust, like you don't trust someone, that's fine. You don't trust someone until you do, right? But even like, what about after that? What about after you make that decision? What about after someone has authenticated? That should expire. That should be tracked. I'm not just talking about UEBA. I'm talking about more holistic matters. So that's all for now. I'm going to go deeper into Kerberos another time, but I wanted to do more of like a quick explanation. So thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.